Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. Today on the show, we're hot and cold on the launch of the banned Air Jordan 1, Adidas taking a mid approach to their jump to F1, James Harden with a bold proclamation that we kinda agree with, the week's hottest releases, and of course, we have our Hard Pass. All right. Let's start with some hot takes. So the marketing push for the Air Jordan 1 band has kicked off, and I have to admit, it's got me very excited for the one that started it all that's dropping on the 14th. Let's see, we've got the expected, the overly excited DJ Khaled hype video where he gets a special care package from Jordan Brand. I mean, this happens at least a few dozen times a year for even Team J, so nothing honestly is really special about that. They really need to get Khaled out of that meeting he talks about all the time. I mean, how important could that meeting be? Really? Then we've got Nike asking the question, what if we never paid the fine, and subsequently shutting down their social media accounts? Like, in 2025, when most social media is a dumpster fire, I wouldn't blame Jumpman23 for taking a social media break for their mental health. Yeah, it's a neat trick, the whole deactivating social media and all, but we've seen it also been done before to mixed results. Anytime I see a person and they're like, oh, I'm leaving social media, my cynicism radar goes up and predicts when they'll be back, because it's usually just a cry for attention. All right. Now that we got the undercard out of the way, Nike got to the fun stuff, like putting black boxes to cover up the Air Jordan 9s on Michael Jordan's statue in front of the United Center. That's brilliant. Like a Bulls or Blackhawks fan walking to the arena who doesn't follow sneakers will see the boxes on the statue and immediately wonder, what's going on? I bet there's been TikToks of kids wondering what happened to MJ's shoes. All of that is playing into Nike's hands, and it reminds me of the old days when their commercials was all it took to generate buzz. It's certainly a lot better than just handing a box over to DJ Khaled and asking him to do his magic, that's for sure. Then we got people who work at Nike being fined by some pencil-necked geek because they wore Jordans. The guy even covered up the sneakers on display at the Michael Jordan building with the black bars. You can see the vision here. A handful of Nike employees in on the joke post the shenanigans to their accounts, and voila, it spreads all over the sneaker internet. And finally, we've got Nike risking a few sales for the sake of a bit by barring out some of the Jordan 1s on .com. Why do I say it's a risk? Well, while I imagine if you're interested in a pair of Jordan 1 mids or golfs, you're going to click on the product page and see why they were blacked out in the search results. But someone who doesn't know better but wanted Jordan 1s that day might be discouraged and go to Adidas or New Balance instead. Anyway, it's been a fun few days, and I imagine that we're not done yet as the sneaker world gets ready for one of the biggest releases of the year. Well, it could be a big release if it was actually going to be available. A paltry 23 stores are going to stock the banned ones. 23. Yeah. Look, that's cute from a marketing perspective, but for fans who have waited literally decades for an accurate recreation of the 1985 original Air Jordan 1, it's a slap in the face, with baby powder and all. Limiting the release to the alleged 10,000 pairs, minus the ones that you know are going to opportunistic resellers, is another blunder. Yes, if you want a pair of black and red Jordan 1s, there's no shortage of them in all sorts of variants. But because Nike went out of their way to hype this up like they would a big release in the pre-social media days, it's going to give the impression to those that don't pay attention that they can just walk to the store and buy them just like the old days. And no, I don't want to hear that it's limited because they spent so much money in research and development in order to craft as close to a one-of-one pair as possible. If they're gonna do that, make more pairs available to the public. This was not the release to do a limited run. This was the release to do the biggest run. Open it up, break sales records like it's a hyped up holiday Jordan 11. Oh, and fix that $250 price point. When I started this sneaker thing as a career, I never thought I would see the day that an Air Jordan 1 would be priced at $160. But we got there as the popularity of the one soared to heights we couldn't imagine. I never imagined Jordan 1s would retail for $180 because of inflation or whatever. But we're here now because of inflation or whatever, and because Nike knows they can get away with it. As cool as it is that we're getting an Air Jordan 1 band in its truest form so far, and that Nike actually put some marketing muscle into all of this, we can't keep letting them get away with this. Of course, as I say this, there's a pair behind me waiting to be unboxed on the main channel, so yeah, I guess I'm part of the problem. When word got out that Puma was moving on from Mercedes F1 team and that Adidas was taking over, my mind started to get pumped for the possibilities. Sure, the possibility of Sir Lewis Hamilton rocking the 3 stripes flew right out of the window when he jumped to Ferrari, but there was still plenty of potential for the collab to be hot out the starting block. Like, imagine Ultra Boost 1.0s, Sambas, Adi Zero Primes. Hell, imagine George Russell or Kimi Antonelli or team principal Toto Wolff rocking the Harden Volume 9 or the AE1 Low in Mercedes colors during their walks to the grid. Honestly, we'd like it if Drive to Survive fave and current Mercedes reserve driver Valtteri Bottas got in on the action too, but we won't be greedy. Instead, we got this slate of sneakers and Slide that's expected to drop sometime this month, and these pink superstars that are... I'm just going to say no bueno. Okay, for now, Adidas gets the benefit of the doubt. It's tough when you think you're signing on to a team that employs a 7-time world champion, and then it turns out you got somebody who finds new ways to piss off Max Verstappen on a weekly basis. Probably not the best on George's part, but hey, Kimi's there, and don't forget about Bottas. Actually, never, ever forget about Bottas. Moving on. So, Joe Freshgoods, his latest collab with New Balance is the 992, and it's being called Aged Well. I guess you could say that for this partnership because ever since the two parties linked up, New Balance has been on an upward trajectory. Of course, credit can't go all to Joe, but his importance to the brand's recent success can't be understated. It's been 5 years since they first worked together, so to mark the occasion, Joe had 2 grills made. One that has the name of the 992 collab, Aged Well, spelled out, and another is a hand-painted one with the colors 992 on it. I'll say that's interesting, man. Look, I've never been a grills kind of guy, but if I was going to get one, I don't know if I would pick one that makes my teeth look like a brick road that someone can step on. They look like the tiles I would put on my kitchen wall to give it a rustic lived-in feel, but again, that's just me. Regardless, congrats to Joe and New Balance on a historic partnership, and hope that we've got many more on the way. All right, moving on. James Harden. He says that with the Harden Volume 9, that makes it 3 years in a row that he's got the best hooping shoe in the game as it relates to being good on and off the court. Now, I'm sure people in the comments will surely have something to say about that and point out other sneakers that could stake that claim. But if I had to think about it, James being so bold as to say something like that isn't as far-fetched as some might think. I mean, we are, a decade now of people saying basketball shoes are dead, right? Admittedly, there are not a lot of basketball shoes designed in this decade or the last that have managed to capture the public consciousness like the Air Jordan 1s through the, let's say, the 13. Hooping shoes went from being worn on and off the court to being exclusively on the court. Since the Harden Volume 7, I think James might actually have a point. Like, yeah, we don't see a lot of kids outside rocking the Volume 7 or the Volume 8, but the Volume 9? Man, slap a Prada or Louis Vuitton logo on that bad boy and watch it sell over $1,000 with no problem. Since the Volume 7, the philosophy seems to have changed with the Hardens, and we love it. It's better for them to be high concept and divisive than to not really inspire any reaction one way or another, which was a problem for the Harden line, I would say, ever since the Volume 1. Anyway, moving on. CM Punk. So he returned to sneaker shopping this past week as part of the Royal Rumble hype train, and I gotta say, he may have been hoodwinked and bamboozled and led astray. Allow us to explain. See, during a segment where host Joe LaPuma showed Punk a picture of the legendary Bret Hitman Hart wearing an original pair of the Air Jordan 1 UNC back in the 80s, Punk made up his mind that he was going to rep his idol. So, when it came to actually buy sneakers, he was talked into buying not a retro of the Air Jordan 1 that Bret wore, which goes for around, $350 at resale, but the UNC colorway of the off-white Air Jordan 1, which goes for $2,500. I mean, whatever. Punk probably has a WWE corporate card, but still, that's an upsell if I ever saw one. And sure enough, Punk did wear the off-whites that same night on Raw on Netflix, up in the ante for everybody's sneaker game in the WWE, clearly. But of course, it'd be more interesting if it actually reflected today's sneaker culture and they were rocking New Balance 530s and Adidas Sambas, but we're going to let that one slide. All right, let's move on to the pick of the week. We've got a handful of picks for this upcoming week, as February is famously one of the busiest times of the sneaker calendar. It'll be interesting to see how these sneakers perform as people's budgets are stretching thin with eggs costing $11 a dozen in some places. Got to stretch that refund check somehow, huh? Anyway, so first up we have the Adidas Superstar 82 Skate in Core Black and Cloud White. This is going to be on the 6 for $200. And it looks like the Adidas Superstar it's getting a monster push in 2025. And they're starting things off with 4 different basic editions of the Superstar, but also this high cut pair with roller skates. Like, sign me up for skating lessons if Adidas ever sends this our way, preferably with the Mercedes F1 team helmet since they're, now sponsors of the team and all. We also have the Nike Kobe 9 Elite Pro Tro Masterpiece. This is on the 8th for $240. And so this never really struck me as a shoe that was going to get the Pro Tro treatment because, they're really good back then and they're still pretty wearable today. But we're getting the Kobe 9 Pro Tros, and this Masterpiece pair is getting React midsole, so it'll upgrade to fulfill that promise. Then we have the Air Jordan 5 Metallic Reimagined. This is going to be on the 8th for $210. Look, love it or hate it, the Reimagined series, it's here to stay. And for this latest edition, we've got the Black Metallic 5s in time for its 35th anniversary. Oh shit, it's 35 already? Man, y'all are old. Anyways, the Reimagined theme doesn't go full vintage, no yellowed midsoles or cracked nubuck here, but it does have the neat touch of coming with the white laces like how Michael Jordan used to mostly wear them and the reflective piping to give it a unique shine to match the tongue. Look, if you want to know more about sneakers and see more about what's releasing this week, check out the Heat Check. It's over on the main Cousteau channel. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass. We'll take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Like all the Patrick Mahomes hate. We are on the precipice of a historic Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs are facing the Philadelphia Eagles in a rematch from 2 Super Bowls ago. And no, we're not talking about the last year's Super Bowl. Still waiting for the day that people realize that our coach is overrated and will only get us as far as the 4th quarter of the big game before screwing it up like he always does. Until we can move on from that, it's never gonna get better, Niner gang. The sooner y'all can admit that, the sooner we can get back to the business of actually winning Super Bowls, not just making it and choking at the end. Sorry, just kind of had to get that out. That's the end of the rant. Where was I? Right, the Mahomes slander. I don't get it. Patrick Mahomes has a chance to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Oh, wait. Actually, you can't say that because Pat Riley owns like every trademark related to that term. Okay, no team has ever pulled off a triple trophy. The Tres Campeones, the Thringsome. I don't know. We're just making up stuff here. But also, shout out to Ken Norton Jr., the only player to win 3 straight. Anyways, the Chiefs could make history next Sunday. And while Andy Reid's coaching should get plenty of credit, let's be real. It's because they have Jordan, as Bomani Jones likes to call Patrick Mahomes. And we can't find a reason, honestly, to disagree. Patrick Mahomes is the most talented, spectacular, awesome quarterback who has ever played the game of football. Is he the greatest? Well, we think so. But rings culture dictates that he won't be the consensus GOAT until he wins 8 to surpass Tom Brady. Man, should this week's Hard Pass actually be directed towards ring culture? We'll save that for another time. I will say this though. Tiger Woods is golf's GOAT, even though Jack Nicklaus has more majors. Michael Jordan is basketball's GOAT, even though Bill Russell has more rings. Patrick Mahomes has a decade or more to go before he decides to hang it up, but it don't matter to us. He's the GOAT, even if he never gets to 8. So, ring culture. The level of vitriol wasn't always like this for Mahomes. When he became the Chiefs' full-time starter, he immediately showed elite level talent. There was nothing he couldn't do with the football. He was making plays that you only see in NFL Blitz or NFL Street. Football fans were just in amazement over Mahomes' seemingly limitless ability. When he won his first Super Bowl, it felt like a coronation that everybody was on board with. Well, we Niner fans were not on board because we'd lost that Super Bowl despite having a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter, and our never mind. Sorry. I've suppressed that memory. Put it back in the bottle. Think happy thoughts. 1995 Steve Young. 1995 Jerry Rice. 1995 primetime. 1995 back to Mahomes. Yeah, he's freaking good. Even though the Chiefs' first chance at a repeat ended in defeat to Brady during the COVID season, Mahomes still had the highlight of the night on an incomplete pass. Like, how do you do that? By throwing it, falling down, appearing to be parallel to the ground, and almost scoring a touchdown? That's like calling Ja Morant's dunk on Victor Wembanyama a few days ago the play of the season, even though it was after the whistle and didn't count. Despite the L, Mahomes had the people behind him. Even after he won his second Super Bowl in 2023 against the Eagles, the vibes were still pro Mahomes. And then something happened over the last 2 years. No, we're not going to talk about Patrick Mahomes' family, even though a huge part of the resentment seems to stem from their collective antics. Then there's the accusation that the league is in the bag for Mahomes and Chiefs because they're the golden goose. That's above our pay grade and knowledge of NFL officiating, so we'll hard pass on that. And we're definitely not going to talk about the Taylor Swift of it all. That runs deeper than football, and brother, we ain't touching that. Nah, let's talk about just the reason why we're all watching. Jordan, aka Patrick Mahomes. Has he won too much to people's liking? Yep. Unlike in basketball and baseball and F1, football and dynasties don't jive, I guess. You can win, but you can't win too much. The Niners of the 80s felt it. The super short, insignificant period when the Cowboys were good felt it. And Brady and the Patriots got a lot of hate. Barring injuries and bad luck, Mahomes might not have that lull. And if he wins next Sunday, he'll have the trifecta that Brady never got, and he will have gotten to 4 faster. That should be cool and worth celebrating. But no, it's hateration all around, just finding ways to not be happy. If Patrick Mahomes were to win his 3rd straight Super Bowl on Sunday, we're not going to complain about football being less fun because there's a big bad dynasty. Like we said, we're used to it as Lakers fans, Dodgers fans, Niners fans, and Lewis Hamilton fans. We are going to tip our hat to Jordan, congratulate him on a threesome, and hope the Niners fire Shanahan. What we probably won't do is buy that he's back Adidas shirt with the Mahomes logo on it. Like, why? He's back? The man never left, and he probably ain't checking out anytime soon. Appreciate greatness and whatnot. By the way, if you're an Eagles fan and buy into the conspiracy that this was a reverse jinx on Mahomes and the Chiefs, you're entitled to your truth. Oh, and one last thing before we go. We are recording this before the Royal Rumble, but by the time this goes live, it will have already happened. So here's a quick mark-ass prediction that will definitely be wrong, but hope to wrestling gods that we're right. On the men's side, CM Punk is going to win the Royal Rumble and continue the story that's been building between him and Cody Rhodes, while Bianca Belair wins it on the women's Rumble and we get our dream match between herself and Rhea Ripley. WrestleMania card will have these big matches: Drew versus Roman, Charlotte versus Tiffany, Jacob versus Solo, Sammy and KO as heels versus Jimmy and Jay as faces, Cena versus Gunther, Rhea versus Bianca headlines night 1, Punk versus Seth versus Cody triple threat ends the night 2. Yeah, I think that's all of it. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I'm Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week, but not before we leave you with the viewer Hard Pass.
Yo, Jacques, what up? It's Hard Passer Leon Morgan calling in with a hard pass. Also, first off, Happy New Year. I know it's kind of late in the month. But I want to give a hard pass to Jordan Brand. Not that they're doing anything wrong, but I'm honestly getting a little tired with all these premium leather Air Jordan 1s. Wouldn't it make sense for we would have an Air Jordan 2 premium shoe? I mean, it was inspired by high fashion Italy, and the first models were manufactured in Italy. I would love to see an Air Jordan 2 low or high, but, specifically, preferably low with premium materials. Anyway, all the best, brother. Keep it up. Much love. I always watch your show every week. All the best.
You know what? Shout out to Pastor Morgan. We appreciate the voicemails, even the ones that don't make it on the show. If you would like to possibly be featured in a future episode, call us at 818-493-9325. Leave a short message, your socials if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right, I'll see you next week. Peace.